What happens when the gods of the galaxy, in their infinite wisdom and suffocating arrogance, make a fatal assumption? They look upon a masterpiece and see only broken parts. They look upon a new, chaotic, unpredictable species and they see only weakness. They look at you and they see a wreck. Let them. Because today we don't talk about asking for their approval. We don't talk about pleading for a better seat at their table. We talk about the mechanics' fix. We talk about the day they handed humanity a pile of junk as an insult, and a quiet, overlooked mechanic used it to build a god engine. This isn't just a story from some far-flung future. This is a blueprint. It's a brutal, honest look at what it takes to transform the garbage you've been given, the insults, the limitations, the low expectations, into a source of undeniable, terrifying power. They gave him a wreck, a symbol of humanity's perceived weakness. He gave them back a miracle wrapped in a nightmare, a testament to the fire they failed to see. If you have ever been underestimated, ever been handed scraps and told to be grateful, then listen closely. The principles of the mechanic are the principles of your own ascension. The fix is coming. The Galactic Consortium was a monument to order. 1,000 ancient species, bound by eons of rigid tradition, unyielding physics, and a shared, unspoken contempt for anything new. Their ships sliced through the void on beams of pure, predictable energy. Their societies were paragons of stability, having genetically engineered out the messy variables of ambition, rage, and reckless courage centuries ago. They were serene, they were powerful, and they were utterly stagnant. When humanity stumbled onto the galactic stage, blinking in the starlight, the consortium was unimpressed. They saw a species still wrestling with its own biology, a species driven by chaotic emotions, rife with internal conflict, their technology a hodgepodge of brute force solutions and inspired, reckless leaps of logic. They were, in the sophisticated alien view, primitives, biological embarrassments. As was tradition for a probationary species to be granted a voice in the lowest subcommittees, they were to be gifted a vessel, a ship built to consortium standards to ferry their ambassador. It was a gesture of inclusion, a welcome, but for humanity it was a calculated slap in the face. On the orbital docks of Xylos, the consortium capital, the human delegation stood in their crisp, formal uniforms. Before them floated the gift. It was a Rathokian freighter, Class 7, from an era 5 centuries past. The Rathokians themselves had abandoned the design for its notorious instability. This specific ship, hull number 734, was known in the dockyards as the Carcass. It had been decommissioned after a catastrophic drive failure that had fused half its systems into slag. It was gutted, scarred, and trailing loose wires like dying viscera. The consortium presented it with speeches full of false platitudes about potential and a solid foundation to build upon. The human diplomats were seething. The humiliation was palpable, broadcast across the galactic networks for all to see. It was a clear message: you are junk. This is what you deserve. But behind the stiff-lipped politician stood a man in a grease-stained jumpsuit, a man who hadn't been listening to the speeches. His name was Kalen, humanity's chief diagnostic engineer. He wasn't a diplomat. He didn't care for status or appearances. While the others saw an insult, Kalen saw something else. His eyes traced the lines of the ruined hull, noting the strange crystalline scoring near the drive cavity, a pattern inconsistent with a simple plasma leak. He saw the unorthodox power conduits, a failed experiment the Rathokians had tried to bury. He saw the raw space frame, composed of an older, denser alloy the consortium no longer used. While the ambassador lodged a formal, impotent protest, Kalen was already running calculations in his head. He looked at the wreck, at this galactic insult, and a slow, dangerous smile spread across his face. And here we find the first law of the mechanics fix. See the resource, not the insult. Most people, when they are disrespected or handed a disadvantage, waste all their energy on the injustice of it. They complain, they protest, they seek validation from the very same source that belittled them. They burn with the heat of indignation, a fire that produces no power, only smoke. They are focused on the intent of the giver, the insult, the condescension, the sabotage. This is a slave's mindset, forever reacting to the master's whip. The master, the mechanic, doesn't care about the intent. He cares about the asset. He looks at the pile of junk and asks a single, brutal question. What can I do with this? He sees the world not as a series of social transactions, but as a junkyard of raw materials. Insults are just noise. Disrespect is irrelevant data. The only thing that matters is the tangible reality of what is in front of you. They gave you a broken-down career? Good. It's a stripped-down chassis to build a new one without the baggage of the old. They gave you a painful, shattering heartbreak. Good. It's a raw, powerful, emotional fuel source if you have the guts to refine it instead of just drowning in it. Kalen didn't care that the consortium thought humanity was trash. Their opinion was worthless. But the ship they gave him, the rare alloys in its frame, the strange energy scoring that hinted at an exotic physical reaction, the sheer volume of space to build something new within its hollowed-out shell, that was a resource. A priceless one, given to him for free by an enemy too arrogant to see its true value. Stop complaining about what you were given. Stop whining about the unfairness of the starting line. Look at the wreck of your situation with a mechanic's cold, calculating eye and find the resource. That is the first step. Back in the human-controlled sector, the official order was to refit and repair. The politicians wanted the Carcass, now grimly christened the Endeavor, to be brought up to baseline consortium spec as quickly as possible. They wanted to prove that humanity could take their junk and make it shine. It was a project born of pride and insecurity. Kalen ignored them. He took his team of engineers, a motley crew of misfits and brilliant but difficult systems specialists, into the cavernous holds of the ship and gave them a single, shocking order. Tear it all out. Not repair, not refit, demolish. For weeks, the ship was filled with the scream of plasma cutters and the clang of metal on metal. Kalen's crew, loyal to his genius, ripped out every alien system. The crippled FTL drive, the sluggish life support, the archaic sensor suites, the miles of fried wiring. They tore the ship down to its bare, skeletal frame. The diplomats were horrified. From the outside, it looked like an act of madness, of self-sabotage. They were taking a broken thing and breaking it even more. "What are you doing, Kalen?" the sector admiral demanded. "Our directive was to make it operational. We are becoming a laughing stock." Kalen, wiping coolant from his brow, just pointed at the twisted, corrupted mass of the old drive core they had just extracted. "You can't build a palace on a rotten foundation, Admiral. You try to patch a cracked dam and all you're doing is waiting for a bigger flood. The idea behind this technology is flawed. It's sterile. It's weak. It's designed for creatures who fear chaos. We are not those creatures. We're going to build our own engine." This is the second, and perhaps most brutal, law of the mechanics fix. You must destroy what is weak to make room for what is strong. This is the part that terrifies people. You are clinging to broken systems in your own life. You know it. A career that is slowly killing your soul. Friendships that are nothing but a drain on your energy. Habits that actively sabotage your goals. A self-image that was handed to you by people who needed you to stay small. And what do? You try to fix them. You try to manage the toxic friendship. You try to motivate yourself in the dead-end job. You try to patch the holes in your own broken thinking. You are trying to repair a Rathokian drive that is fundamentally, fatally flawed. The mechanics fix is not gentle. It is not about incremental improvement. It is about total, ruthless deconstruction. It demands that you take the plasma cutter to the parts of your life that are not serving your ultimate potential. It means ending the friendship. It means quitting the job. It means declaring war on the habit. It means facing the terrifying, empty void of a clean slate. Because only in that void, in that hollowed-out hull, can you build something truly new, something that is yours. Something powerful. You cannot install a God engine into a system designed for mediocrity. You must tear out the old system first. It will hurt. It will be condemned by those who are comfortable with the old wreck. Do it anyway. With the ship gutted, a stark and empty cathedral of metal, Kalen revealed his true plan. He wasn't just going to build a better engine. He was going to build a different kind of engine. For years, he had been obsessed with a fringe theory, a concept ridiculed by both human and alien scientists. The theory centered on something a deep space probe had recovered from the Uit cloud, an inert, crystalline organic structure that seemed to resonate faintly with human consciousness during REM sleep. The consortium had scanned it, classified it as a non-reactive biological curiosity, and forgotten about it. Kalen believed it was a key. He believed that the next step in evolution wasn't external but internal. It wasn't about better machines. It was about a better integration between machine and biology. The consortium's greatest strength, Kalen explained to his skeptical team, gesturing to the empty space where the old drive had been, is their control, their logic, their predictable, repeatable technology, and it is their ultimate weakness. They have cut themselves off from the most powerful and complex computational device in the known universe, a living, evolving consciousness. He unveiled the artifact, now housed in a magnetic containment field. They see our emotions, our adaptability, our chaotic DNA as a flaw, a bug in the system. They think we're weak because we feel, because we dream, because we can be unpredictable. They've got it backwards. That's not the bug, that's the core feature. Kalen's plan was insane. He was going to build a drive system that didn't just use a pilot, it merged with one. An engine that didn't run on refined plasma, but on the raw, bioelectric and quantum energy of the human mind. The ship wouldn't be flown, it would be felt. Its navigation would be an extension of the pilot's spatial awareness. Its power output would be tied to the pilot's focus and emotional state. Fear would cause it to stutter. Hesitation would drain the capacitors. But pure, undiluted will, unbreakable focus, that would unlock power the consortium couldn't even measure. This leads to the third law of the mechanics fix. What you have been told is your greatest weakness is the raw fuel for your greatest strength. Listen to me. The world, your society, your family, your teachers, they have all tried to sand down your edges. They told you that you were too much. Too loud, too intense, too emotional, too quiet, too dreamy, too aggressive. They tried to make you more predictable, more manageable, more like them. They pointed to the most unique, powerful parts of your nature and called them flaws. This is a lie designed to keep you in a cage. Your rage, which they told you to suppress, is a thermonuclear reactor of energy. Focused, disciplined, and aimed at a worthy obstacle, it can burn through any barrier. Your sensitivity, which they called a weakness, is a high-fidelity sensor suite that allows you to see the truths that others miss. Your stubbornness, your refusal to quit, is the unbreakable alloy that will form the backbone of your life's work. Kalen saw that humanity's flaw, its messy, chaotic, emotional biology, was the secret ingredient the sterile, logical aliens could never replicate. The God engine would not be a triumph despite human nature, but a triumph because of it. Stop apologizing for the fire inside you. Stop trying to extinguish the parts of you that make others uncomfortable. Your job is not to put out the fire. Your job is to build an engine around it, an engine powerful enough to contain and channel it. The construction of the symbiosis drive, was a nightmare. It was a fusion of technologies that had no right to exist together: biogenetic engineering, quantum mechanics, and raw, heavy metal fabrication. They grew organic conduits that interfaced with fiber-optic cables. They designed a pilot's couch that was less a chair and more a neural interface cradle, with thousands of microscopic filaments designed to sync with the operator's nervous system. The first tests were catastrophic. One test pilot suffered a complete psychotic break, his own anxieties amplified by the engine into terrifying hallucinations. Another nearly tore the ship apart when a surge of anger caused a momentary, uncontrolled spatial distortion. The ship, now unofficially nicknamed the Spark by the crew, was a wild horse. It didn't just need a rider, it needed a master. They needed a very specific kind of person, not the best pilot by metrics, not the one with the fastest reflexes. They needed the one with the most absolute, unshakable internal control, the one who had mastered their own mind. They found her in a deep space reconnaissance unit, a young woman named Alara. She was known for her unnerving calm under pressure. On her psychological profile, one word appeared again and again: unflappable. She had grown up on a desolate frontier colony where a moment of panic meant death. She had learned from childhood to treat fear not as a master, but as a signal, a piece of data to be analyzed and acted upon, but never ever surrendered to. She was quiet, disciplined, and possessed a core of inner stillness that was as solid as a neutron star. When she first sat in the cradle, Kalen warned her, "The engine will feel everything you feel. If you let your mind race, the ship will tear itself apart. You can't just fly it, you have to be it." Alara closed her eyes, her breathing slowed, and she reached out with her consciousness. The low hum of the dormant engine changed pitch. It steadied. The ship's internal lights, which had been flickering erratically, settled into a calm, steady glow. She wasn't fighting the chaos, she was harmonizing with it. This is the fourth law of the mechanics' fix. Master your internal state, for the external world is its shadow. You want to control your life, but you have no control over your own mind. You are a slave to every passing emotion, every stray anxiety, every distracting impulse. You let the external world, an annoying email, a rude comment, bad traffic, dictate your internal state. And because your internal state is chaos, the world you create, the actions you take, are also chaos. You are piloting a ship that is bucking and screaming because you have not learned how to be still at the center of the storm. Mastery is not the absence of fear or anger or doubt. It is the ability to feel those things without becoming them. It is the ability to stand in the heart of a hurricane of your own making and be the calm eye. This is not a passive, meditative state. It is an act of supreme, focused will. It is the discipline to choose your focus, the discipline to hold your frame, the discipline to decide what a thing will mean. Alara could pilot the Spark not because she was emotionless, but because she was the master of her emotions. She could channel her focus into a laser, her calm into a shield. This is the ultimate form of power. Before you try to build your empire, before you try to change the world, you must first conquer the chaotic, reactionary kingdom between your own ears. Master your internal state, and you will find the universe has a funny way of aligning itself to your will. For 2 years, the Spark remained humanity's secret, a ghost project. To the consortium, the ship was still the derelict endeavor, a monument to human incompetence, occasionally sending out falsified, pathetic progress reports. The Galactic community laughed, then forgot. Then the scourge came. They weren't an empire. They were a plague. A swarm of autonomous, self-replicating biomechanical ships that descended upon systems, consumed everything, planets, stars, ships, and moved on. They didn't communicate. They didn't negotiate. They simply erased. The consortium, with its rigid battle formations and predictable tactics, was helpless. Their powerful fleets were being dismantled, their logic-based strategies failing against an enemy that operated on pure, brutal, adaptive instinct. A scourge hive, a fleet of thousands of the terrifying vessels, was detected on a direct course for the Kepler system, a fledgling human colony and a key strategic outpost. The consortium's third fleet, the closest available force, was in disarray after a previous engagement and couldn't possibly intercept in time. The system was declared lost. The order was given to evacuate essential personnel. The colony and its 5 million inhabitants was being left to die. The human ambassador received the notification. It was a cold, formal message of condolence, an acceptable loss in the grander strategic picture. But the Spark on its final shakedown cruise was only a few hours away from Kepler. The admiral, the same one who had condemned Kalen's project, made a desperate, unauthorized call. "Kalen, that thing you built, what can it do?" Kalen looked over at Alara, who sat in the cradle, calm and ready. He keyed the comms. "Admiral," he said, the old smile returning to his face, "we're about to find out." This is the fifth law of the mechanics fix. The crucible doesn't forge your character, it reveals it. A crisis does not make you a hero or a coward. It simply shows the world what you have been building in secret all along. All those days of discipline, all that time spent mastering your internal state, all that painful work of tearing down your weaknesses, it's all invisible, it's all practice. No one applauds it, no one even sees it, but the crucible is coming. A financial crisis, a health scare, a sudden betrayal, a moment where everything is on the line. When that moment comes, you will not rise to the occasion. You will fall to the level of your training. You will act according to the systems you have built. If you have built a system of panic and reaction, you will panic and react. If you have built a system of discipline, focus, and resilience, you will be disciplined, focused, and resilient. The crucible is not a test. It is a revelation. It is the moment the galaxy finally gets to see what kind of engine you've really been building inside that wreck. The consortium's long-range sensors picked up a single, unidentified vessel accelerating towards the Scourge hive. They cross-referenced the transponder. It was the Endeavor, the human junk pile. On the bridge of the consortium flagship, the Xylian fleetmaster let out a sigh of weary pity. The primitives are making a suicidal gesture of honor, a pointless but noble waste. They prepared to record the ship's destruction for the historical archives. The Spark dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Kepler system. Before it, a roiling cloud of Scourge vessels blotted out the stars, a chaotic swarm converging on the colony. In the cradle, Alara took a breath. She didn't see 1,000 enemies. She saw a single, complex system. She felt the ship around her, the thrum of the symbiosis, drive an echo of her own heartbeat. She didn't think, fly left, fire weapons. She pushed her intent, her will, into the machine. And the God engine awoke. The Spark did not move like a ship. It moved like a thought. To the horrified consortium observers, it simply vanished from its position and reappeared in the middle of the Scourge swarm. There was no trail, no wake, no visible propulsion. It was a physics-defying act of instantaneous translation, a spatial blink. Alara wasn't plotting courses. She was simply deciding where to be, and the drive was rewriting reality to make it so. The Scourge, operating on predictive algorithms, couldn't track it. It was like trying to catch lightning in a bottle. Before a Scourge fighter could lock its weapons, the Spark was already behind it, a lance of pure, coherent energy, a manifestation of Alara's focused will, gutting it from spine to jaw. The ship danced. It didn't fire missiles. It manifested localized gravitational distortions, crushing swarms of attackers into singularities. It didn't raise shields. It bent spacetime around its hull, causing enemy fire to simply miss. Alara's mind, calm and sharp as a surgeon's scalpel, was the fire control. Her unflappable core was the shield. Her deep, disciplined focus was the reactor, pushing the engine's output into realms Kalen hadn't even dreamed of. On the consortium flagship, the pity had turned to slack-jawed disbelief, then to raw, primal fear. "What is that?" the fleet master whispered, his voice trembling. "What is it? No ship can do that. It's not moving according to physics." His science officer, a being of pure crystalline logic, was shivering, an unheard-of phenomenon. "It is, sir. It's just not moving according to our physics. It's organic, intuitive. It's anticipating the Scourge's actions before the Scourge takes them. It's not a machine fighting a swarm. It is a predator hunting its prey." In 10 minutes, the Scourge Hive, the unstoppable plague that had shattered the consortium's finest fleets, was broken. Not just defeated, but annihilated. The remaining ships, their hive mind fractured by a terror they were not designed to process, turned and fled into the void. Silence descended. The spark floated alone in a graveyard of its own making, its hull pristine. Alara's heart rate was barely elevated. In the silence, a single transmission open to all channels was sent from the human ship. It was Kalen's voice, cold, clear, and dripping with an irony that cut deeper than any weapon. "Human vessel the Spark," he said, putting heavy emphasis on the new name. "Requesting permission to dock at Kepler for shore leave. The crew is a little tired." The final law of the mechanics fix. The goal is not to be accepted. It is to become undeniable. Humanity had spent decades begging for a seat at the table. They had tried to play by the consortium's rules to win their approval, to be seen as equals. It was a fool's errand. You cannot convince those who look down on you to change their minds. You can only change the facts. The Spark did not ask for respect. It commanded it. It didn't argue that human potential was real. It demonstrated it in a way that shattered the foundations of galactic power. After that day, the consortium's opinion of humanity was irrelevant. Their arrogance was replaced by a new, far more useful emotion, fear. They didn't understand the God engine. They couldn't replicate it. It was built from a flaw they had bred out of themselves eons ago. Humanity was no longer the pathetic probationary species. They were the terrifying wild card, the keepers of a power that defied logic, the mechanics who had built a god out of junk. Stop seeking validation. Stop trying to convince the skeptics and the haters. They are a waste of your time and your energy. Your job is not to win the argument. Your job is to build your engine in secret in the dark, fueled by everything they called a weakness. Build it with discipline. Build it with brutal honesty about your own flaws. Build it on a foundation you cleared yourself. Master the internal chaos until it becomes a directed force. And then, when the crucible comes, when the world says it's impossible, unleash it. Don't do it for them. Don't do it to prove them wrong. Do it because it's what you were built for. They gave him a wreck. They gave you a set of circumstances, a history, a body, a mind, and they told you what it was worth. They are wrong. You are not a wreck. You are a stripped-down chassis waiting for a mechanic. That mechanic is you. The God engine is your own untapped, disciplined potential. The fix is here. It's time to get to work.